Is Perth still a good place to buy? We've been buying there for more than 2 years, made a lot of money, but with all these talks of like, hey, recession, interest rates going up, does Perth still stack up? In this episode, I'll be taking us through three things. One is statistics on the demand-supply imbalance in Perth. Number two, I'll be sharing you on a map the suburbs that are performing the best from a growth perspective and also from a rental perspective. And number three, I'll be sharing with you half a dozen statistics as to why I'm massively bullish on Perth. If you're interested, carry on watching. Let's just quickly start with the Perth demand versus supply metrics at a very, very high level. So what you're seeing here, Perth sales market, this blue line is showing monthly average property listings, okay? And this orange line is showing monthly average property sales. So listings in this context, you can think about as supply, what's there for sale, available to be sold. And in the orange line is demand, the actual sales. You can have incredible amount of listings, but if there's not a willingness and ability for people to buy them, then the sales or the demand is really shrunk. But what you're seeing here is the incredible imbalance in Perth right now between demand and supply. Demand, this orange line, is through the roof. Of course, there's a few anomalies here and, data, etc. So think of it as a smooth graph. So overall, from 2016 to, let's say, about 2019, 2020, it was basically flat. There's some seasonality, which is, these dips and things like that. But then it's really come up. Before, I would say, COVID really struck and the lockdowns really began, but it was around that time. And from that point on, it's really just gone from strength to strength and been very, very stable. Demand has been very, very stable, but yet the supply has fallen off a roof, okay? So in terms of a monthly number of properties for sale, this blue line, it's gone from a high of 17,000 per month down to less than 8,000. I think it's like 7,000 right now. So that's gone down more than 50%, whilst demand in that same period has gone up. And that is why Perth, even though prices haven't like boomed yet, so there have in some parts, and I'm going to get through that in a second. I'll show you some really cool maps. Even though they haven't boomed in general in Perth, this is the most resilient market in my mind, according to the data. Even if we get a national recession or a national slump, and this is a dead cat bounce for Sydney, Melbourne, etc., Perth will be the most resilient property market to invest in right now. But I want to take you guys through this amazing mapping the market tool by CoreLogic. You can access it yourself as well. Hopefully this is a really cool intro to this tool. So what this is showing is for June 2023, so updated data. This is the Perth market, okay? If I zoom out, this is naturally on the West Coast, zoom in. Okay, I'm going to take you through 4 or 5 metrics, and I'm going to highlight some key interesting areas that you can perhaps further deep dive and do your own due diligence to see if it's worthwhile investing or not. So the first thing I want to show is, as per this legend, it's just the current median value of Perth. Okay, so you can see naturally in Perth, and for those of you who don't know Perth, maybe this gives you a little bit more context and understanding of how that market works. So on the inner West Coast, okay, these beachside suburbs west of the CBD, these tend to be the most expensive. Okay, so the darker the purple, obviously the more expensive the suburbs. So really dark purple, you've got more than 1.5, 2 million type suburbs. For example, right here, Claremont, you've got Mount Claremont, it's kind of hard to read on this, Scarborough, Tarrant Hill to some extent, Subiaco, Shenton Park, etc., etc. So they're really premium, nice to live suburbs. So that does not mean that it's these areas that grow up and that go up the most in value. Let's come to that in a second, but zooming out, let's say your budget is under 750, or let's say your budget is under 500k, you can see that all of a sudden, unlike Sydney and Melbourne, there's a lot of opportunity for us investors in the kind of middle ring suburbs on the north side, on the south side, on the southeast, southwest, and even down here in the Rockingham, Secret Harbour type of area. So if you have a budget under 500k, under 700k, Perth is giving, well, it's really the only capital city we can buy within 15 kilometers of the CBD, 20 kilometers of CBD, something under $500,000. Let's go to 3-month change in value. So what this is showing, as is pretty obvious, is the last 3 months change in value. You can see that it's these most premium suburbs, like this one right here, that has actually gone down in value around that Mount Claremont, Swanbourne area. Sorry, I have a bad pronunciation. So it's not always that the best suburbs to live are the ones that are the most consistent performers. That is a theory you should chuck out the window. And in fact, it's a little bit, it's blue or purple kind of everywhere here, right? So you can see there's not one area that's been a standout performer in Perth proper. The best areas have kind of been up here, a little bit of a pocket up here I think in the Joondalup area around the suburb Currumbine. If I go down, I'm looking for the darkest pockets around this area, Spearwood, Munster, around this area, Success, and then obviously a lot of investors' favorite area, Rockingham area. So you can see Rockingham is, kind of far from the CBD. The people who live in Rockingham don't necessarily all work in the CBD, but you can see it's performed just as well as any of these other places around. In fact, there's areas close to the CBD where my cursor is right now, like Canning Vale, in the north side around here, Nollamara, Beachboro. These areas haven't performed nearly as well as places like Secret Harbour down here. Bandura region, you can see a lot of Dudley Park, a lot of dark blue or dark purple. So the proximity to CBD has no influence on capital growth in the short or long term. Let's look at 12-month change. And once again, on the 12-month chain, this really hammers home the point, okay? You actually find, and this is why Perth isn't booming at an aggregate level. It's not showing that 15% growth figure. It's because these premium suburbs have really struggled. The affordability is so poor. So you have to be not only picking the right city, the right suburb, but the right price point. The price point is really important. In this current part of the cycle, it's the affordable price properties that are performing the best. And over the long term, affordable or expensive, they all perform the same. So you want to pick that right timing in the cycle for the type of property you want to buy. And you can see in the last 12 months, there's Rockingham, Bandura, Secret Harbour, all this area has outperformed Perth proper. Like, these are numbers, like these are statistics. You can't argue with it. It's core logic data. People hate on Gosnells, okay, but check this out: Seville Grove, Camillo, Huntingdale. This Gosnells area has performed so much better than those more quote-unquote blue chip areas that a lot of boomer buyers agents buy in, that are much more expensive and cost $20,000 a year to hold because they're so negatively geared closer to the city. You just don't need to do that. And hopefully this is kind of, demystifying property investing, because not many people have an opportunity to get a view like this. Up north, I think near close to Ellenbrook, not that I would say you should buy an Ellenbrook or anything like that, but here has performed not too bad. And then this sort of Joondalup, or this kind of corridor up towards Mariwa, Twin Rocks, Queen's Park, etc., has done quite well as well. So in Perth, it's really the affordable property that's doing really well. Let's look at the current median rent. Okay, so the median rent, obviously, the more expensive the property, the more rent you get, but it's not proportional. Okay, so it's not like a linear line. Generally, after $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 properties, rent starts to, not keep up. That's why we want to buy in that sweet spot between, let's say, 300 and 700, 750K type properties. But naturally, on an absolute level, the most expensive rent is here. But let's look at the 12-month change, and this is the most impressive or the highest rental growth in any city across Australia. And once again, you're seeing that premium inner west pocket really underperform in Perth. So it's like, why buy expensive properties? Why go with those buyers agents who always say green leafy streets are best? It's stupid if you ask me. Up here, the rents have grown the most. Okay, so Yanchep, come down here to Butler, Ridgewood, Quinns Rocks, like I mentioned before, Oceans Reef. These areas have gone up a lot in rent, even around here. Alexander Heights, Marangaroo, Girween have done really well. And then down here, Canning Vale, Huntingdale. These were areas, Huntingdale, like clients were buying maybe 2 years ago, they've gone up more than $100,000 off a base of 350. So, what can I say? Like, I'm trying to educate you guys so you make the right decision divisions, okay, with or without me. Rockingham has obviously been a star performer, not really so active there anymore, like I've said many times. And Mandurah, check this out, like Dorsville, the rents have gone up more than 20% just in the last 12 months. So hopefully this is giving you an idea, both from the housing market and the rental market perspective, of how the Perth property market is faring. If you like this mapping the market tool, leave a city below and I'll do a review on that city. So Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, put the city name in the comments below right now and I'll do an identical video sharing the most interesting and the weakest, the highest growing areas and also the rental superstar areas in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide, suburb by suburb. And I can go into much more depth as well than I did right now. Leave that in the comments and I'll do other videos on that if you want. I don't think Australia will have a deep recession at all. We might have a technical recession, but not in any way close to unemployment really going above the 6-7% to really have it hit hard. But despite that, with or without a recession, I think Perth will once again continue to outperform the rest of the capital cities in Australia over the next 1, 2, 3, perhaps even 4 years. You know, right now, some statistics to throw at you guys. There's still on a weekly basis less than 900 sales every single week. That's down. There's more than 1,000 sales in the Perth market every single week. On a long-term average in Perth, that's more around the 800 number. So demand, like I said, is so strong. The long-term average for Perth is about 11,000 properties for sale at any one time. Right now, there's 8,000. Okay, so 3,000, that's 3,000 over 11,000. Like, that's almost 30%. That's a huge supply decrease. Like I mentioned before, expensive suburbs like Subiaco, yes, they've gone up, you know, let's say 30% in the last 2 years, but now these expensive suburbs have really not become any more affordable. And so therefore the prices are retracing or just being stable. So don't be lured into those expensive areas. Over the long term, cheap properties, quote unquote, as long as they're well located, do just as well, and you can get the cash flow to boot. You do not need to buy one property at 1 million. Instead, buy two at 500k. The Perth immigration story is really strong still. A lot of immigrants from the UK, from New Zealand, East Coast and India, and they're mostly kind of settling down in the Joondalup areas and the Wanneroo areas and the Rockingham, Mandurah regions. So if you're a property investor, these 4 areas are the ones that you should be diving deep into, because this is genuine long-term demand. When someone immigrates from, you know, across the world, they're not just here for 6 months. They're not just here because of some mining boom. By the way, on the mining boom, iron ore prices are down more than 50% since 2020. I think they were up at $250 US dollars per ton for iron ore. Now that's, you know, more than half that. Yet property prices are not affected. They're still going up. People who say that this boom is because of the mining boom, this, you know, this increase, this wave of optimism in Perth is because of the mining boom, that's really not true, because the mining boom has really abated. I mean, it's still strong, but the expansion projects haven't been given the green light for more than 6 or 12 months now. Okay, prices, iron ore prices are really down, consistently down compared to 2020 levels, yet the Perth property market is just beginning in these affordable areas. You know, a lot of people say there's a lot of spare land around Perth, north, south, east, and that's true, but land sales have gone down. They used to be like 75 a week, now they're around 30 to 40 a week. And so what that means is developers are buying less land, and therefore in the next 1, 2, 3 years they'll be building on that land less and less, because they're just not buying as much as they used to in terms of the long-term average. So, you know, you need to understand these numbers, you need to understand these statistics when making a cohesive and confident property investment decision. The vacancy rate in Perth, although just itching up a little bit as it is nationally, is still at chronic levels, 0.3%. And the more immigration that you get from all these different parts, the more that problem exacerbates. So once again, not only in my view, as per the data, will Perth property market perform the best in terms of national capital cities, but also the rental market will go up the most. It's got the biggest chronic shortage of rental properties. And look, let's be honest, it still has, Perth does, the highest incomes per capita except Canberra, where, by the way, prices are almost double of what Perth prices are. Okay, so think about it. Perth has, you know, almost the same incomes as Canberra. Canberra has double the property prices. So you got to understand the value that exists, not only in the short term, but in the long term in Perth. I won't try to pitch you Perth. I don't really care if you buy there or not. I'm just trying to paint you a picture so at least you can consider it for yourself. Thanks for watching, guys. If this has brought you any value, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and really level up, okay? I might be talking trash. Who cares what I'm saying? Really level up and invest in your own real estate, not in Perth first, but in your own real estate. The 6 inches between you 2 ears, because that real estate is what will make you wealthy. To do so, I'll leave links below to my podcast on Spotify, Google, and iTunes, Australian Property Mastery with PK, and also a link below in the comments to my Facebook group, Australian Property Mastery with PK, with more than 30,000 amazing community members, hundreds of which have bought in Perth, and you can engage with them. You can understand their experiences, good, bad, and ugly. Thank you for watching. See you next time.